everybody. Welcome. We have been lost in the land of Pisces with everything making connections to the North Node, and we've been working with Venus in an exact conjunction with Saturn all weekend. And frankly, this is kind of a long transit, so we've been working with it for a few weeks, and it just feels kind of slow and boring, but I'm going to give you some tools and tricks for feeling a little bit enlivened and bringing a little bit more excitement and energy and action into your week, because it is another action-packed week and we're going to talk about it. This is the path ahead. I am astrologer Natha Perkins with Electra Astrology. We're looking at the forecast for the week of April 7th through the 13th. I'm going to switch to the charts here and we're going to get a sense of what's going on. I'm teaching astrology not just to tell you what's happening with the planets, to help you understand how the planets and the energies, they all act as teachers and they bring you certain energies that you in your evolution can use to grow and to evolve and to understand everything on a deeper level. Because like I keep saying, our time of being on autopilot, our time of just head down, doing exactly what we've been told to do like little robots, is coming to an end. There's a lot of people on the planet that don't know that yet. If you're watching this, you probably know it. And you're probably really dedicated to your personal growth. And the way that we personally grow is not by outsourcing our power and saying something out there has to change, or this person has to change their viewpoint, or these governing bodies have to do something to fix this problem. No. We are taking the power into our own hands, and we are starting here with ourselves, with connecting to our own heart, our own gut, and reevaluating our belief systems, our values. We're looking at our emotional reactivity, our blind spots, and our resentments, and all of the stuff, all of the baggage that we've been hauling along for all these years that is keeping us in that like head down robot, like must do this kind of mode. So we're looking to dump some of the rocks out of our backpack of trauma and stuff and lighten the load, find some freedom, find some independence. And I use astrology to help you do that. So last week, to register for my class, Wired for Emotions, the astrology of your stress response, we're going through the signs, their corresponding elements, and their corresponding stress responses. Oh, we all do it. We all do them every day. And we're going to look around at our personal lives and get a sense of how we can do it a little bit differently, so we are not always in emotional reactivity. It's going to be a great class. You can register in the box below or at electraastrology.com. And I say we look at the charts for the week. All right. If you are listening on the podcast, I'm going to verbally walk you through this. And if you are watching on YouTube, I want to give you the visual of all of this stuff in Pisces. Venus in retrograde in a conjunction with Saturn. We have Mercury here. We have the North Node here, 25, 26, 27. These are the degrees. This is a rolling conjunction, as we call it. And when these energies are conjunct, they form one giant meal. It's almost as if you have four things on your plate. You have a meat, a veggie, a starch, and a salad. And in a rolling conjunction, you're taking your fork and you're mixing them all together so that it becomes one mono meal. So we know that that means that all the flavors are going to merge together. So we are looking at Venus, our values, our love, our money. We're looking at Saturn, our limitations, our relationship to tradition, our boundaries, and that inner critical voice. We are looking at Mercury, our mind, the way that we think about things, the way that we communicate and connect with people, and the North Node, which is about evolution. So it's as if to say, we can't evolve unless we're on top of our minds. And we can't evolve with our minds unless we are understanding of our boundaries and our limitations. And we can't evolve with our minds and our boundaries if we don't know what our values are and we don't have our money and our love under some semblance of control. Although control is very hard when we see that all of these planets are in Pisces, because Pisces is the energy of no control. It is the energy of the control of the divine, which we are not in charge of. So we are learning divine lessons that have to do with patience, And patience is very frustrating and it's very boring. It can feel very flat. It can feel very dull because the idea is that we have to allow time to work its magic. Time is something that is also out of our control. Time can also be frustrating and boring. And yet, think of your adolescent self. You thought you knew it all. And now, fast forward to whatever age you are listening to this, and you realize that 15, that 16-year-old really knew nothing. But in order for you to get to that place where you are now, where you're like, wow, I have a lot more wisdom than I had, it took time, it took experience. And so that's what we're all doing. And I talked about this last week, that this North Node being the path of evolution, our evolution right now is going to feel long and slow and arduous and boring on some level, but it is also designed very specifically to bring us in closer connection with our higher power, with the way that we understand the universe and the universal energies at play, which are not what they're going to be talking about on the news. It's not what other people who are really attached to a black and white traditional version of reality, they are going to tell you that you're crazy or tell you that you're focusing on the wrong thing. But we know that the work that we're doing right now in order to evolve and grow personally absolutely has to be connected to your relationship to higher power. And I do a lot of readings where I ask clients, what are your spiritual practices? And people have a hard time answering that because they immediately think, well, I don't go to church. I'm not religious. I don't really know what my spiritual practices are. And spiritual practice, the way that I see it, can really be anything that brings you closer to yourself, closer to your higher self, and therefore closer to God, higher power, universe. So that can look like meditation, prayer, journaling, spending time in nature, literally hugging trees, petting your animals, praying over your water, spending time near bodies of water, just sitting in silence, feeling the sun on your skin. Anything that is going to bring you into silence and stillness with yourself, that is a spiritual practice, because that is when the Piscean, Neptunian conduit, our conversation between ourselves and higher power, it's when that can come in and be clear. And it is very difficult to do that because we get very Virgo. South Node is in Virgo. I did a great video on this about the nodes. It's well worth listening to. I also talked about Virgo and Pisces during Pisces season. Those videos are on YouTube and the podcast, where I went into deep detail about Virgo and the issues with Virgo, because Virgo is where we think we solve the problems and we come up with the answers. It's where we get busy and we avoid actually having to feel or having to tune in and listen to ourselves and listen to our gut and listen to our heart because we get so busy. So we're looking at leaving the busyness behind in favor of the stillness. It doesn't mean that you have to sit and meditate in a meditation retreat for 10 days. You don't have to meditate in your bedroom for an hour. You can literally meditate for 5 minutes or 3 minutes, just closing your eyes and taking some deep breaths and coming into the present moment. So I encourage you to start practicing, because you might as well use some of this stillness and this boredom. You might as well put it to good use. So I want to show you also that on Monday, we have Mars over here in the sign of Cancer. It's at 25 degrees. It is making a precise trine to Venus and Saturn, both at 25 degrees, and is technically also in a trine with Mercury and the North Node. So Mars, we've been dealing with these damn Mars themes, Mars and Cancer, for months. Mars is our energy, action, and drive. Mars is at detriment position in Cancer. It doesn't like to be in Cancer. So I just released a great talk on Aries and the rising sign, Aries and identity. That's a great one to listen to because you want to understand some more about how Aries impacts your own life and how it functions in your own life. How Mars also, Mars and Aries kind of go together, but Mars has essentially been slowed down significantly as it was in retrograde. It's had to pick up speed. It has been very slowly, directly making its way through Cancer. Now it's coming into relationship with all of this Pisces stuff. Mars in Cancer has been teaching us about our emotional reactivity and how we may allow our emotions to get the best of us and tell us a story that may or may not be true, may or may not be accurate. So this is a week you might shed some light on some of your emotional reactivity. Basically, when our emotions get activated, it's simply there to tell us something. It's there to give us some information. It's not there meaning that it's the whole truth of all truths. It's just there to guide us in some way and bring us closer to something that our higher self is wishing for us to learn. So be aware of any downloads and insights. Also, on Monday, Mercury stations to go direct. Mercury has been in retrograde, back and forth between Aries and Pisces. Mercury is our mind, like I said earlier, and we've been tasked during this retrograde with understanding how easily our mind wanders. Mercury is at fall position in the sign of Pisces, so it is very weak. It doesn't like Pisces because Pisces is boundaryless. That Pisces does not involve facts, and Mercury needs those things. Mercury really wants to know. But when Mercury goes into Pisces, it's almost as if we have to put on our blindfolds and we have to feel our way. And there is something to be said for the way that the mind will freak out if it doesn't know. Imagine when somebody puts a blindfold on you and says, walk, and you don't trust them. You don't want them to walk you into something. You don't know if you can relax. You don't really know what's going on because one of your biggest senses, one of your determiners of your time-space reality has been taken. Mercury in retrograde in Pisces feels a little bit like that. So I hope that you have gotten some insight into how easily you get scared, how easily you go into a fear response or indulge in your fear body, because Pisces does relate to the fears that we easily slide into. The world's ending. I'm never going to make any money. I'm never going to find love. It's never going to get better. You've learned some very important things about that. And I hope that what you have learned is that you can't always trust your mind when it brings you into worst case scenarios. Because as Mercury is going to go forward now back into Aries, Aries is where we develop the confidence, the bravery. Aries is our warrior. We're going to watch a lot of the fog start to burn off of all of that fear and all of that confusion that we're all experiencing in Pisces, which can also feel like slow, arduous slog. So the confusion is not going to last forever, but you're still getting a lot of downloads about what your Mercury in retrograde lessons have been. We got to look at all of this like they are spiritual lessons for us. Like I said, we're no longer in a time period where we're just on autopilot. This is what I do for work. This is what I eat for dinner. This is how I talk to the people that I love. This is who annoys me. This is my history. These are the traumatic things that happened to me in my past, and that is why I act this way. Like all of that is old news, and we're breaking out of the chains of all of that right now. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some years, but it is a whole new world, and we have to learn how to navigate it. And part of that looks like accepting that everything that happens to us right now is a part of our larger spiritual journey. It's here to teach us. It's not here to give us a hard time or keep us in fear or keep us controlled. It is here to teach us how to differentiate, how to find autonomy, and how to step into personal freedom. On April 9th, Mercury makes its way for the third time to meet with the North Node. So more of this evolution, the evolution of the mind, also the evolution of you being able to maintain connection with the present moment. Mercury is connected to sign of Gemini, the third house, and the very present moment that we exist in. And remember, when we veer off into fear and fantasy and history, we lose touch with the present moment. Present moment, as they say, sounds cheesy, but the present moment is the only moment that we have, that we are existing within. So we're trying to get a sense of that. That is what's going to help you evolve and grow. When you're thinking back about that person that hurt your feelings or that person that betrayed you, you're not in the present moment. When you're going forward into the future, what if I never, what if I always, you're not in the present moment. There's a lot of that spiritual mission that I was talking about that has specifically and precisely to do with your relationship to the present moment. We're also watching Mars making a sextile and trine to the north and the south node, right as the moon is here on the south node. Let's look at that as an emotional purge. We are purging that drive that we have for perfection, for avoiding the way that we feel through being busy, and instead getting really curious about what we feel passionate about. A lot of times when we're super busy because we're trying to avoid having to feel something, not only do we not have to feel that thing, but we also lose touch with some of the passion and the purpose and the things that really excite us and the things that really feel good. So another reason to not be so busy all the time. You don't want to just put your head down and work your way through your life, because eventually you will turn around and say, wow, I missed out on a lot of good stuff because I was so damn busy. This is interesting. On April 12th, we see the sun making a conjunction with Chiron at 22 degrees of Aries. If you remember, we had a total solar eclipse on April 8th of 2024, where the sun was in an exact conjunction with Chiron. That was at 19 degrees. This is not an eclipse. However, it is working up to be a full moon, which I'm going to talk about in a second. Think back to last April. What were some of the themes that you were understanding about identity? Maybe about father, maybe about your own personal kingdom. I talk a lot about how the sun is the king of your personal kingdom. And Chiron, being the wounded healer, being the medicine man or woman, when there's a conjunction, Chiron will come in and help us to understand something about our own king, the ruler, the light of consciousness that is us, that deep sense of pure self. And we might see some places where we have been wounded, where our sense of identity never fully formed, or where it formed in distortion. Ideally, we're finding the medicine or healing some aspect of ourself that never got to fully shine. So we look at Chiron in a conjunction to the sun as, yes, it may bring up some wounds around who you are. It may show you some places where you have had a hard time with boundaries or where you have not allowed yourself to be angry or expressive, but it does bring you the medicine. So that might come in the form of a person, of an opportunity, or of just a deep knowing and a stronger acceptance of who you are. And it might relate to some similar themes from last April. Just a few hours after that, we have a full moon in Libra. So technically, Chiron is in an opposition to this full moon and in a conjunction to the sun. We look at the sun like it is our king and this moon as if it is our queen. Well, the queen, the version of us that comes in with the emotions, that is strongly intuitive, that is cyclical, that feels deeply. There might be some wounding that shows up in those respects as well. This might relate to the mother. The sun is the father, the moon is the mother. The sun is the king, the moon is the queen. The sun is our light of consciousness, our pure sense of self, and the queen is the seat of our emotions. It's part of what makes us beautifully human, is that we have the ability to feel empathy and allow our emotions to inform us. So there's some big stuff happening in this moon, and we can't overlook the fact that it's in a square with Mars. As we've been looking at what we feel passionate and purposeful about and what our boundaries are and how our emotions may come in and distort everything, but also how our emotions can help us get very clear on what is right for us and what is not. So this is a powerful full moon. This is also the ending of eclipse season. Eclipses are bookended on either side by the lunations. We had a new moon, and this is a full moon. And so We are closing out our official work for the next 6 months as it pertains to eclipses and to this evolutionary leap that we are expected to make. And you're listening to this, your evolutionary leap is going to be very personal. And if you're paying attention and doing your personal work, your healing, then this is a very profound time. You're getting very, very strong messages right now, insight and guidance about the things that need to be processed and eliminated, and the things that need to be handled with care and tended to, like a new seed. Now, literally, like 40 minutes later, after this full moon perfects, Venus is going to go direct. So that puts Mercury and Venus both in direct motion. That also means that this week we're going to be feeling the Venus and Mercury retrogrades really loudly, as we do when they are about to station to go either direct or retrograde. So what have you learned about your values? What have you learned about your money, about your romantic relationships, and also your sense of worth? It's so interesting because I do so many readings for people all week long, and I find that these themes are so deeply connected. Everybody is struggling with money, with a sense of worthiness. They're in comparison mode, or they're looking at what other people have and looking at what they don't have, or they are having relationship issues. Should I stay with this person? Should I not? Does this person meet my needs? Do they not? There's also a lot of going back into the past and examining what was going on. Why was I in that relationship? Why did I allow my money situation to get like this? I thought I was doing all the right stuff. How come I'm not reaping the rewards of what I was doing? Remember that with all of this action right around the North Node in Pisces, we come back to where I first started in this video, which is the reminder that this is all a spiritual mission. These are all spiritual lessons, and they revolve around time and around patience and surrender, and remembering that we are being guided by our higher power. We are not in control. It is not going to happen because we make the right decision or the correct connection. If we smile hard enough, we're not going to make people like us. If we work 50, 60, 70 hours a week, that's not going to generate the money that we need. In many respects, what is happening now is so deep and potent, but it is a sidestep from what we have been taught, which is that you have to work really hard and you will pull yourself up by your bootstraps and then everything will be okay. We have to leave some of that old belief, old conditioning behind. Because now, especially right now, as all of this stuff is in Pisces, it's less about that black and white, old school reality, trust the science. If you can't prove it, it's not true kind of mentality. This is where we are experimenting with trusting higher power. And we're playing around and saying, okay, if it's about getting a download, where's the download? If it's about connecting in with spirit in a different way, how do I do that? You will get the answers if you're asking those questions, but remember, not necessarily on your timeline. Will be on the timeline of the divine, which is something that we're still trying to get used to. All right, I hope this was helpful. See you all soon.